think it just spoke to me taking chances and taking risks. And I've always felt like I never like to have a plan B. I always like to, like the saying says, you burn the boats and you just do the best you can, because if you have an opportunity for a plan B, or an opportunity to turn back, 9 times out of 10, at the slightest chance of adversity, you're going to do that. You're going to go back. And needless to say, we'd be telling a different story if that had succeeded. It did not, and I ended up going back to corporate America. So I kept at it and kept succeeding there. Interestingly enough, I ended up getting paid.
This is Scratch Your Own Itch, the one show that delivers the conversations that we're afraid to share, but need to. This show is all about creating a life worth living. I'm Logan Tyler Nelson, and I'm your host. So, you're going to hear conversations with creators and entrepreneurs talk about what they do, their current and past traumas, how they became who they are, and what they are truly curious about. This is the show where we talk about the things we think about a lot, but need to talk about more. Please take note that this show is not a substitute for actually creating a life worth living, because this show will stir your beliefs, make you question what it means to create a life worth living. So my promise to you is to always give you one question to answer for yourself today, to start turning your dreams into a reality. Hey, ladies and gents, before I get in this episode with Mr. Harry Duran, I do want to read a little review for you that I recently got from a listener, because I just think that reviews are very important. And if we don't share what people are taking time out of their day to do, to give thanks, then really you're missing out. I mean, for me, I think that it literally is the best thing in life, and it's the best life hack, is to just take some time to give someone a quick thank you. But I got a review from Mr. Doesn't actually say a name, but it says a sort of like username. So I'm not sure who it is, but I have an idea of who it is. It's from CJW, no QL. Mr. Accountability, he titles it. Great show, great content. Logan asks the tough questions where he finds a way to get his guests to open up so the listeners can learn and get the most out of each guest and episode. Keep up the great work, Logan. Oh, man. Wow, thank you so much for taking the time to write that. It means a lot, because feedback means everything. To me, feedback means everything. If I don't have a conversation with you and I'm just speaking to a mic and there's no conversation, then really it's all for nothing. And I think I've taken this lesson on and really dove deep with Zig Ziglar's book lately. And he has a quote that says, if you solve enough people's problems in life, you will be rich. And it's not like I'm after money, but I am after building something that is a community, and I want you to be part of this community. Hit that Facebook link and message me today on something that you're working on. And honestly, I want your feedback of how it's going, how I can help, because I want to be there for you. I want to be there for you not only as a entertainer who does a podcast and you just listen to it passively, but I want you to be actively engaged. And I know this is asking for a lot. So it means the world to me when you take time and energy out of your day to do it. So without further ado, enjoy this interview with myself and Harry, and enjoy the rest of your week too. And I really, really can't wait for you to listen to the self-inquisitive question that he asks, or that he gives out at the end. It's dynamite, absolute dynamite. So enjoy. So, my curiosity question for you is, have you ever just wanted to start all over? Okay, ask yourself this again. Have you ever just wanted to start all over? Let me set the tone. You've been working tirelessly on trying to make the best art you can make by yourself. You've got this strong itch that requires some form of creating. When you're not creating, you feel like you're kind of dying. Really, you do. So you keep on creating YouTube videos, writing blogs, or acting in plays for free. But you're not really seeing any real tangible dollars come in. Because all of those successful people you look up to said, everyone has to pay their dues, and you do the work for free, but the truth is, you're fine with doing the free work. It's just not paying the bills. So you find yourself getting a job you hate just to pay the bills, and hopefully finding a flexible job that allows you the freedom to still pursue your creative endeavors. If this at all is resonating with you, and you're wondering how you can go from trash job to dream job, then this episode is for you. Because my guest today has scratched his own itch by turning his love for podcasting into a thing he no longer just does for free, but does it because he loves it. And now he gets paid to create podcasts for other people as well. His name is Harry Duran, and he truly has cracked the code. Harry and I are going to dive deep into his story of how he went from making six figures at a job that was good, but it wasn't really scratching his creative/entrepreneurial itch. Harry Duran is the founder of Fullcast, a full-service, done-for-you service. He helps six-figure entrepreneurs amplify their authority and extend their reach through the power of podcasting. As a host, consultant, and coach, Harry empowers others to amplify their authority through the power of a podcast. As a speaker, Harry challenges leaders understanding the importance of finding their unique voice. So, without further ado, I'd love for you to meet the one and only Harry Duran.
Thank you so much for having me on. I truly appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Harry, for agreeing to come on. I'm a huge fan of Podcast Junkies, so anyone that's listening to this right now, after they listen to this, head over to Podcast Junkies, please, because it's awesome. You got a great interview style, and you're absolute talent over there.
Thanks, Logan.
No, very welcome. So I'd love to start out asking you where you got to by kind of scratching your own itch.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to realizing if it's in you, if you have this entrepreneurial itch like I had, I felt like it was always something that was bubbling under the surface, and it would come up at different times. And so there's a bunch of different things that I tried over the course of my career when I was in corporate America. And I would go and I would try something and I would fail, and I would come back to corporate America. But over time, I think I just realized that that's where I wanted to end up. And I took my love for music, specifically electronic music, and I created a mobile app in 2014. And that's how I ended up at New Media Expo. And at that time, I thought I was going to interview other DJs because I thought that was going to be something interesting for me to do. And then when I realized how hard it was going to be, because it's so hard to track down, I was really inspired by the talks that the podcasters were giving there, people who had been doing it now at that time for probably 5 or 6 years, folks, the likes of Cliff Ravenscraft and Pat Flynn and Amy Porterfield. And then I quickly changed gears and I said, it'd be interesting to tell their stories. And Podcast Junkies was born. And in April of this year, It was my 4-year anniversary, and we're at 170 episodes.
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. Could you kind of talk about the things that you tried that weren't really working? Because I know a little bit more about your story and how you said you had a shiny red ball syndrome and kind of go from idea to idea. And
Yeah.
this was all during working a regular full time job, if I stand corrected, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I think for the most of my adult life, I'd been listening to other people's voices. I mean, the earliest one that I can remember, Logan, is my father telling me I needed to go to college, and like he just wanted me to succeed. And I remember he would play like these motivational tapes. He would pull the siblings into the living room, and he'd play. I think it was Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he just wanted us to have a good life. And you know how parents are; they just want the best for their children. So unfortunately for him, that didn't happen because I took the first opportunity to put on a suit and enter the corporate world. And once you're wearing a suit at 22, you think you've made it. And I was just so excited to be in my going to my 9 to 5 job. And I was always trying different things and working as hard as I could because I had the core skill set to succeed in that job, and I kept getting promotions. And then the next voice was my boss at the time, and he said, "Hey, when you get to 6 figures, you realize that your salary puts you at the top 10% of all income earners." And I was like, "Whoa, then I definitely made it." I felt like I was cruising, like I was on easy street. But there was always this like the seed like blossoming inside of me. And I tried a promotions company with a friend of mine, and then when the dot-com wave hit in 1999, I was like, well, this is my big break. I took an unpaid position with a friend of mine who was going to start he had a startup for Latino culture. It was called Latino, Latinknow, Latino.com. And I was so convinced that was my shot at dot-com millions. I cashed out my 401k to zero, and it was an actually unpaid position. It's crazy in retrospect when you think about all the things I did, but I was so excited about the opportunity, and just I think it just spoke to me taking chances and taking risks. And I've always felt like I never like to have a plan B. I always like to, like the saying says, you burn the boats and you just do the best you can, because if you have an opportunity for a plan B or an opportunity to turn back, 9 times out of 10, at the slightest chance of adversity, you're going to do that. You're going to go back. And needless to say, we'd be telling a different story if that had succeeded. It did not, and I ended up going back to corporate America. So I kept at it and kept succeeding there. Interestingly enough, I ended up getting paid more than I was getting paid when I was leaving, which is one of the ironies of corporate America. Sometimes you have to leave and come back to get a better salary. So I kept doing that for a while. And then I reunited with a brother of mine who lived in Atlanta, and he convinced me to go down to Atlanta and take a unpaid. No, I'm sorry, not this one was actually paid, but this is a position as a general manager of his construction company of all things. And obviously, I'd been in technology my whole career, and I knew nothing about construction, but I was so excited at the opportunity to help him build a business that I moved to Atlanta, and we signed a deal in a Hooters restaurant, which was probably the warning sign. But what they say about working with family, after 2 years, it didn't pan out, and I was forced to go back home with my tail between my legs to live with my parents at the age of 34. And I just want your listeners to really think about this, and if this resonates with them, to ask themselves why, because a lot of times, Logan, we spend more time listening to other people's voices while ignoring our own. And I realized that that's not what I wanted to do. And it was still a ways off from me finding, what it is I wanted to do. But I knew that I was going to keep on searching. And that's why when I started the mobile app, I knew that's where I was going to end up. And so, but an interesting thing happened when I came back from Atlanta. I had a ticket to go to Thailand to visit a friend, and we took a trip out to, it took me 26 hours to get there. I had the ticket, so I didn't really have a job when I got back to live with my parents, but I had this ticket to Thailand, and it was New Year's. I think I said 2014 earlier, but it was actually 2004. I went out there for New Year's Eve, and he showed me around the island. It was beautiful. Everything was super cheap. We went up to this waterfall. And then he said, "Hey, you should come on a lookout and check out the view from here. It's amazing." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And so I did that. As I did, I stepped into a stream, and I stepped into the slipperiest rock you can imagine. Both legs go up into the air, and I land on my back, and I proceed to be carried over the waterfall. This is all happening within seconds. Mine just is super, super fast. And so it's like one of those light flashing before your eyes moments. I stick out my leg because I see a boulder out of the corner of my eye, and I stick out my left leg, and I'm able to stop myself from going over. I probably wouldn't have died immediately because it wasn't like a super high waterfall, but it was a bunch of jagged rocks, and I would have been in a lot of pain. And I probably over time, and like given that I was in such a remote area like Thailand, I'm sure it wouldn't have been pleasant. And I was shaking, like my friend was like pale faced. He finally pulled me off to the side. And you never learn these life lessons or the meanings of things until later on. And it wasn't until I was back in New York that I realized, for most of my adult life, I've been listening to other people and ignoring my own voice. And I realized, wow, how sad would it have been if I had died with my voice inside of me? So now I have this mission. I want to help 1 million people find their voice. And I want everyone to be listening, that's listening now, to just say that today's the day. There's no time like the present. And to say that today is the day that, you decide, if you're listening, you decide that you're not going to let your voice die inside of you. And it doesn't have to be a podcast. You could be doing speaking, blogging, YouTubing. Everyone's got their own platform. But just decide that you have a specific message. And I really feel that everyone has a unique voice and a unique message that needs to be heard by, your intended audience. And so it's really, I'm really passionate about this. And I think you hear it in my interviews, Logan, and it comes across in the conversations I have with my fellow podcast hosts.
Hey, Logan Tyler Nelson here. I would so appreciate it if you took some time to hit the subscribe button. I really want to just honestly live and give. Why? Because I was told when I was young that if you're feeling down, the best way to feel better is by lifting someone up again. So in an effort to make someone feel less alone, please hit the subscribe button so the podcast has a better chance of being found and making someone feel less alone. And if you're feeling down, hey, it can help you. Know that by hitting that subscribe button, you just did someone a huge favor. So thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. The thing is, though, it's wild how it sometimes takes that sort of near-death experience or sort of like, whatever the case is, I think like extreme change in reality of your life to go, wow, I really need to start doing something a little bit different and start archiving my voice because, after I'm gone, like what's left? And we all have the ability to create something that leaves the world a better place than when you entered it. And really that quote, I say that to myself every single day is like, first of all, I look in the mirror and I have a little like note that Steve Jobs once said, like, am I doing something today that I would do on the last day of my life? And if the answer is no, then I have to change.
That's
and
great.
So like that speaks to me, what your story just is all about. Is it's so true. And you're doing it for other people, which I love, man. Like, could you talk about a few people, maybe real quickly, that you have helped, if you're allowed to, and talk about like the success that they've recently seen from their podcast?
Yeah, it's interesting because it runs the gamut. There's people that I have just met because I've done like a 1-day workshop here. Then as when I started Podcast Junkies, naturally, as you do it more and more, people are asking you for more and more guidance because you've sort of had some experience doing it, and I think we all have that responsibility, especially as podcasters. It's such an accommodating and giving community. It's everyone that comes into podcasting for the first time, they all say, wow, podcasters, they really like to help each other out. I've been going to podcast conferences since I started the show. So it's been 4 years. Actually, this year at Podcast Movement, it'll be year number 5. I've been to every single one. And I never take this, I never take it for granted, whether every single email, every single Facebook message, as you can attest to, Logan, every single tweet, that I get, Instagram, I just want to make sure I never feel like, oh, I'm too busy to respond, because I literally treat every, I like to say I treat my guests like gold, but I also treat every single fan like gold, because I know that they're the heart and soul of my podcast. And so as I started learning more and more, I decided to get a business coach, and that's how I started Fullcast, my production company. And so we've been able to help, folks who are entrepreneurs who realize the importance of focusing on their genius. There's a lot of tasks people think of when it comes to running a business. Those are, there's four main ones. Those are incompetent at, those are competent at, those are excellent at, and then your genius. Incompetent and competent tasks, you need to quickly get those off your plate. Think about having like a housekeeper come and clean your house. It's something you could do, but it's not the best use of your time. Excellent tasks are the ones where we get stuck as entrepreneurs because it's a skill that we have or that we learned. And for me, maybe it might be a little bit of HTML or a little bit of CSS or web design because I was self-taught on that. But it's by no means my genius, and I've been known to go down a rabbit hole trying to fix something on the sidebar of my website, and 6 hours later I still can't get it right. And then I call a developer friend and he gets it fixed in like, in 30 seconds. And I was like, wow, that's his genius. And that light bulb went off and I said, I'm going to design an offering to help these people out. So I've had guests who focus on, one of my earliest clients was a guy by the name of John Livesey, and he helps startups perfect their pitch. He's so good at it, they call him the pitch whisperer. And, in the beginning, he's like, I don't know how to create the artwork, and I don't know where to post my episode, and I don't know how to edit audio. And he kept rattling off these things that were obviously not in his genius. And I said, John, you know what? You don't need to know those things because that's not your expertise. Focus on what you do best and let me take care of the rest. And that's how, that's been my motto as I've built these relationships. Christina Wise, she's based out of Austin, Texas. Her podcast is Wealthy, Wealthy, Wise, and she coaches folks on how to make the best use of their finances and how to have a healthy lifestyle as well. We also work with a retired professor from USC, Eric Trules, E-Travels with E-Trules. Sylvia Ma, she has a podcast called She Invests, and she specifically focuses on conversations with female angel investors, a really underserved audience. Then we're moving more into the corporate clients as well. We launched a podcast for Dun & Bradstreet, which is a financial services company. And one of our latest podcasts that we launched is for actually an Olympian by the name of Samantha Peshek. She was on the 2008 gymnastics team, and they won the silver. And we connected here in Santa Monica in the Los Angeles area. And she's been great to work with. And so really excited about the caliber of the clients that we're being introduced to. And they're really happy at their ability to now connect and help themselves find a voice, but also get the voices out of the people they're going to have on their show.
I really want to point something out that's really cool is that I think a lot of people get confused on, what should I do with my life, I think the real question is, that's not the wrong question at all, but I think a better question is, who do I want to work with? And I think what you're doing is you're asking yourself and answering at the same time is like, what kind of people do I want to work with? Oh, I want to work with people who are elite, who have done something incredible, or who are working on something that is incredible, that's impactful, that's not just making a dollar, but making a difference while they make the dollar. And I see that so much in your work, as you're working with people that you would probably hang out with if you got paid or not. But heck, why not make a living doing it at the same time? Harry?
No, I totally agree. I mean, it's just something to think about, and I think a lot of people don't take the time to think about who it is that they want to work with. And it's hard in the beginning, Logan, because you really feel like you want to work with everyone. And when you think about building a business and cash flow, you may take on people that you might not want to work with later on. And so it's hard because in the beginning, you do want to build up that clientele and really have a self-sustaining business. But as you start to build it, you become more and more discerning. And you realize, like, to your point, like, who are the people that really put a smile on your face? I mean, we were at a local bar here yesterday, and one of my clients came by because we were in the neighborhood, and we proceeded to have a working session. And we knocked out his artwork, and we got his episode submitted, so he's ready to go with his episode 0. And it was just a fun day. And it's just, when you can call your clients your friends, then that's really truly something special.
That is so true, man. Virtual high five. I want to get into what I call scratching the surface curiosity questions, because I know that you're on a tight schedule today, and I just want to get you back to your life, and also anybody that's listening right now back to their life. And I think you've delivered some incredible wealth of your story and what people can start doing to, I think, today to start getting their voice out there, whether it be podcasting or YouTubing or blogging, and actually make, some sort of monetization. Maybe you do it for someone else, which I think you're doing. You're kind of scratching your own itch by not only doing the podcasting, but doing it for other people, which is so cool. But anyways, the scratching the surface curiosity questions are all about questions that I thought of for you specifically. And also, I started this show because I want to make someone feel less alone. So some of these questions are a little bit deeper and more vulnerable. And just whenever you're ready, we'll start them up.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So the first question I'd love to ask you is, it's a givings question. It's that sort of question that some people just need to feel less alone by hearing about maybe a thought or maybe something that you did that you feel a little bit embarrassed or ashamed about doing.
As it relates to business or life or just anything, or
just anything. If you want me to specify, I could.
Yeah, maybe something like just to get a feel for what you had in mind.
Yeah, so like, for example, when I look in the mirror, I know I'm in really good shape. Like, I see the pictures, I still never feel like it's good enough. Like, I still feel like I could get in better shape, or, I'm not good enough. And I have incredibly bad body image issues, and that's just what I kind of deal with. And I feel like I constantly have to be working on that. Otherwise, I am just nothing in the world. So, or when I look at my bank account and I go, wow, I am a POS. Like, even though I know that's not true, but I'll equate my self-worth with my body image or my bank account number.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very, very slippery slope, Logan, and anyone that's listening and been there. I mean, that's not to say like I have not been there. It's not to say that I haven't been there myself, but I think recently I've just had a shift, and I realized the importance of saying that words have power. So I'm always wary of pointing out the things that are negative, because we tend to move into this glass half empty mentality. And so lately, I've had an abundance mindset, and I mean, I basically, I think I used to beat myself up because I wasn't focused on. For me, meditation is really important because it's really grounding, and my intentions are important too. So, occasionally I'll miss it, and I won't be able to do that. And to your point with your working out, you beat yourself up a little bit. But at the end of the day, you realize that, what I want the listener to realize is, anyone who's listening now, is to realize that tomorrow is just like the start of a new day. I've heard a metaphor that is really fascinating for me. It's this idea of letting like your cork float. And if you think about you being the point where you're being unhappy and the point where you're not satisfied, that's literally you pushing the cork down into the water. And so it's, the natural inclination is for there to be like peace and there to be harmony in your life. That's normal. And so if you think about a cork, it wants to float, and you actually have to work to make it not float. And so all this time that you're being negative, all this time that you have, self-doubt, that's you physically pushing that cork down. So, my invitation and my challenge to you listening is just take your finger off the cork, let it float. And because that's the natural state. Happiness and peace is the natural state for all of us. And love, peace, that's the natural human state. And anything we do that's not that is us actually physically pushing that cork down into the water. And so, if I could have one takeaway for people, one visual, it's to let your cork float.
Hey friends, so let me ask you real quick. Are you someone who's trying to get more visibility? Who's trying to be in front of the crowd? Well, if that's you, I want to let you know that first of all, you're not alone. Second of all, if you want to get on more podcasts, or ones that actually scratch your own itch, meaning maybe you have a book, or a business, or maybe you do speaking, or if you don't yet do speaking, maybe you can, and maybe you'd love to. Well, I put something together for you, and in this little giveaway, I'm going to show you how to pitch yourself or podcasts, and how to actually be professional when you show up so you can be the next authority in your niche, so you can start scratching your own itch. I know what it's like to build something, create something, and then there just be crickets. No one wants that. You need to be seen. You need to be heard because you have a message to share. A message that is worthy of hearing. Podcasts nowadays, more than ever, are being consumed by people. And guess who's actually learning the knowledge that's being shared? It's podcast listeners. It gives you a license to be an authority in whatever area you really dream of being an authority in. So if this at all starts to give you a little itch to scratch, just email Logan at logantylernelson.com. Again, that's Logan at logantylernelson.com. I love it. Yeah, absolutely. I only asked that question because I feel like a lot of us believe that we're all alone in our negative thoughts, and they pop up, and they pop up subconsciously. And so I want to make people more aware of that. So I think, though, what you just said is incredible advice. So I appreciate that a ton. And it's something that I know I'm going to start implementing in my own life. So thank you.
Yeah, no time like the present, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's something that I try to say to myself all the time. But I know as human beings, having the ability to think into the future, it's hard not to, or think into the past, it's hard not to. And but to truly stay present is a practice that we can all do better. But meditation, like something that you do, is great.
Yes, it's really grounding because I think what you have to do, and again, people overthink this as well. You can start with 5 minutes, and you can start just by closing. Even if you close your eyes for 30 seconds, that's at least you putting that intention out that you want to do something different. And there's no such thing as a bad meditation. It's just literally you. Even if you close your eyes and all you thought about was all the bills you had to pay, it's a start. And I think you know this, Logan. It's just the first step, and just the next day will be better than the previous one. And so I think we beat ourselves up because we're not doing it the right way, because we think we've heard other people tell us that there's a specific format and we need to be able to sit quietly for like 5 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever it is. So we're all on our own journey, and I think as long as we have the right intentions, we can't go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to expound upon that for another 14 hours, but I want to move on with the next question I love to ask, especially someone that is a fellow podcaster. Who is someone that you would love to have on your show, and what one question would you die to ask them?
Well, as you might imagine, when you're a podcaster, there's just so many people that you're inspired by, and I know a lot of people want to go for the heavy hitters. I'm really fascinated recently by the people who have mastered, or at least in the process of trying to improve the skill of interviewing. I really like Joe Rogan, to be quite honest, and I know he has a wide range of guests because he has fans of MMA and hunting. But I really love his guests that really expand this idea of what this world was like in the past and past civilizations. So when he has folks like Graham Hancock on, I'm really like blowing my mind, and I realize that he has a really, really important platform. So if I had to think about the opportunity of bringing him on, I think what I might want to ask him is, what is it that we could be doing to, or how can he inspire other people to create a platform like he has, for the betterment of humanity? Because I think if we could create more people who inspire to reach people like he does and just talk honestly and openly, he has 3-hour podcast episodes, which is unheard of. A lot of podcasters would be afraid to do that. And so, maybe the question is, what would, if I was speaking to Joe, I said, hey, Joe, what is your advice for someone who is afraid, to come out of their shell and afraid to have their own personality? Because you probably were at that point yourself once. And so how did you make the transformation, and how do you use that as a basis for how you live your life now?
That would be so cool. I'm a huge fan of Joe Rogan. Yeah, that would be an absolute amazing question too. one question I think that I have to ask you is, what is one thing most people don't know about Harry Duran?
I mean, at this point, I keep letting out tidbits on my show. So a lot of it is, I mean, I really like to make sure my life is an open book, but I think one thing people don't know is that, it's so interesting when you see people's public persona, when you see them on, what they show on Instagram and what they show on Twitter. We're not incented to show the tough times as well, and, to be quite honest, as someone who's an entrepreneur, as someone who's working every single day to build a business that's sustainable and that's going to make an impact, there's a lot of times that are not fun. There are times when you're staring at your bank account and wondering, when you're going to get paid on an invoice so you can make sure that your team gets paid. And those are incredibly stressful times, really stressful times. And, it's not like I'm going to tweet out, hey, struggling to get people paid this week. Who wants to hear that, because we need to at some point inspire people as well. But there are those moments. And I think I want your listener to know that those exist. And it's like, that it's a balance too, right? It's this polarity of completely, negative moments, balanced with the positive. And as long as you're balancing towards the positive, and that you realize that the negative are gonna be around only for a short period of time, don't put your focus on them. But I just want to be clear that it's not all wine and roses, and that it's a struggle for anything you do, and it should be. Nothing that you're going to want this bad is going to come easy. Apologies for the background noise. I have the patio door open here in Los Angeles. I'm trying to take advantage of the beautiful weather we got. But nothing that is something that you want to build as like a legacy or something for a lifetime is going to come easy, and it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be challenging because it's gonna test what you're made of. We all need adversity, and I think it's required. And if everything came easy, then we wouldn't appreciate it. So I just want the listener to know that there are tough times, but that you have the ability to get through them, and that when they come, the next one comes, it's like, oh, look at this challenge that I'm having. I can't wait to get through it so I can see what's on the other side. It's really just changing your mind shift about how you see them. And I just have strong faith. I'm an incredibly spiritual person, and I know that everything happens for specific reasons. So I just always look, and I look deeply at some of the things that are challenging. And it's like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Why is this happening now? And what is the lesson that I can learn?
Nice. Yeah, that is, oh, dude, that's just packed with wisdom. I wish that little excerpt was in a book for the world to read. It was incredible. I know that's very, very, because you're so right. We don't talk about the vulnerabilities very often because it's hard. And you're very right that usually it's the uncomfortable situations in which we finally grow. But I've just got a few more questions that are really like quick, like 30 seconds or less answers.
Sure.
And yeah, so awesome. Well, the first question is, what is your favorite way to gather or actually listen to content? Is it audiobooks, podcasts, books, or movies?
Yeah, I think it has to be. I mean, with a name like Podcast Junkies, it has to be podcasts.
Right on, I totally get it. And what's your recent favorite podcast?
I really there was a recent episode of Tim Ferriss. I think I still have it pending. I don't have it handy, but yeah, I love that I love the work that he puts into dissecting like the reason for a guest's success, and it's not something that people do. They don't take the time to really research and ensure that they're getting the best out of their guests. So he's always motivating and inspiring. So any recent episode by Tim Ferriss would be on that list.
I'm going to name off a series of several great masterful interviewers, and I want you to pick out the one that you think is the best and why. Oprah Winfrey, Joe Rogan, Larry King, Charlie Rose, or Howard Stern. Who would it be?
Well, I think based on what people have heard so far, I'd have to go with Joe Rogan just because of the wide range of guests that he has on, his genuine curiosity, He had someone by the name of Robert Schock on that was talking about ancient civilizations, and he just had the wonderment of a small child when he was talking to him, and he was really appreciative for the knowledge and the information that Robert was sharing. And it's really like bringing that motivation, bringing that curiosity, that really sense of wonder to every single conversation. He's really good at that, and it's something that I aspire to do as a podcast host myself.
So cool. So cool. Do you think what you know is more important or who you know is more important?
It's a combination, because you could have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't have people you can share it with, then you just take that to your grave. So, and again, you could know a bunch of people, but if you don't take it upon yourself to just make yourself a better person through the things you're learning, you're not going to have any value to add to that relationship. So I think you just feel like both sides of those needs to be nurtured. They say that luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So I always keep that in mind.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true. Before I get into the last question, my second to last question is anyone that's listening to this right now, how can they support Harry and find Harry? I already plugged in your podcast, but any other places that they can find you?
Yeah, the best place is, if you're interested in the podcast, head on over to podcastjunkies.com. All the social media links are there. There's a feedback form if you want to send me an email, or you can just send it to harry@podcastjunkies.com. If anyone's listening that needs help on the production side, then the company's called Fullcast, fullcast.co. And I'm active on Twitter and Instagram at Harry Duran FC.
Awesome. So I will include those links in the show notes 100%. And the last question I'd like to ask you is, it's sort of like a self-inquisitive question that anyone that's listening to this could sort of ask himself, because I believe in questions more than answers. Maybe a question that they can ask themselves during the day to start helping them find more clarity and start maybe scratching their own itch, or if they're going throughout the day and they feel like they're just not getting things done. What's that one question you'd like them to ask themselves?
I think it has to. I think it would have something to do with how can I, there's so much distraction going on right now, Logan, with like social media and people trying to like present the best view of themselves. But I think we just need to slow down. And so if people would ask themselves more like, how can I be of value to the person that's literally in front of me at this very moment? Not this person that's on my phone, not the meeting I'm going to have an hour from now, not the person I'm going to talk to tomorrow, not me thinking about the conversation I had yesterday. Like literally, how can I provide the most value to the person that is on the receiving end of my energy at this exact moment?
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. That's huge. Yeah, because we so often want to think 14 steps in front of us or 14 steps behind us instead of just taking the step that's right in front of you right now. So
exactly.
That's incredible. Oh, man. So, well, Harry, thank you so much for coming on Scratch Your Own Itch. I really appreciate you taking the time to do it and always being responsive and totally off air. And he was on a tight schedule, and he just honestly said, hey, Logan, I need to get going. Let's do this. And I just want to be totally transparent with anyone that's listening right now. We all have those little struggles. So if this stuff kind of happens to you, like just I learned a lesson today. Take care of the Skype stuff or Skype information or anything like that, whether it's on Skype, Ringer, or Zencastr, all stuff that you'll learn about if you start podcasting yourself today. Where you'll go, oh, there's this tech portion that kind of sucks.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we get stuck sometimes, and but I was exactly. I mean, I've had this happen to me as well, Logan. So I mean, don't beat yourself up over it. And this is something that we learn, we move forward, and we figure out. When I was a manager in my corporate world, I used to have I was very forgiving when people would make a mistake because we all do. And my boss has been the same way, and it's something he taught me. But when people would come to me and they would make the same mistake twice, that was when I was like, oh, so you didn't learn the lesson, and you didn't learn it, because you realized, that you knew how to fix this the second time and then you didn't. And so that was the one thing that if I had a pet peeve, it's when people would like make the same mistake twice, because I'm like, man, you really didn't care enough to kind of see how you could, better yourself in this one place the next time. So, we're all going to make mistakes. I'm still going to keep making mistakes. So it's something that I just learn from them. I think that's the big message. Just learn from them and realize how you could be better. Because if we don't, then we're just wasting time because we're just repeating the same old mistakes, and and all that time is just wasted time that we could have been using to try to better ourselves, because now we've moved on to the next thing because we've resolved that. We're like, yeah, that's not going to happen to me again. And so, of course, we're going to make a different type of mistake, and then we'll learn from that one as well. But that if we continue to make mistakes and learn, make mistakes and learn, make mistakes and learn, that's an upward trajectory that I think will benefit everyone.
100%. As they say, the first time it's a mistake. The second time, it's a choice.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, on that note, we will end it there, and we'll keep in touch, Harry. Thanks again.
Totally, Logan. Thanks for extending the invite. I don't take these things lightly, and hope I was able to add some value to your listeners.
Oh, virtual high five with a fist pump, with a bro hug. Absolutely, you did.
That's the high five. Totally.
Love it. All right, there's another episode of Scratch Your Own Itch. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to support the show by listening. The biggest compliment you could ever pay me is just by sharing this, because honestly, it doesn't take much, and it feels so good when people create something and take time. And when I see someone take time to create something that really just changed my day, either made me feel less alone, maybe put a smile on my face, made me laugh, made me feel wiser, I always want to share it with the world. Because why? When I share something that resonates with me, why not share it? I mean, that's just kind of the thing that goes around, and it's free. It takes no time at all other than just a click of the button, share, on either Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Any of those social media platforms would be great to share this. So I really appreciate it. And I want to say that anybody who's looking to gain authority or expertise in their area, and they don't want to take another year or year and a half to write a book and wait until that's published, I think the best way is right now is to start a podcast. So if you're at all interested in starting a podcast, if you meet the certain requirements, I would love to help you with a podcast and also get a website going for you as well. And this is not an easy task. It's hard to actually get it done and get it out there. So every now and then we need some help, and I'm here for you. So please reach me at Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com if you're interested at all. And don't ever forget, you matter and you're enough.